Kennedy, 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 40 Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy,
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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
'Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy,
Kennedy, Kennedy, Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy,
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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair?
We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Welcome, welcome, welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in these United States, on this planet Earth, the only one we have, third rock from the sun, in the Terran solar system. This is the Kennedy Effect live, back with you live for the 7th of November 2021. We trust and hope very, very much that you had a wonderful, wonderful Halloween holiday, as it were. We got very lucky here. We had good weather. It did not start out that way. That last weekend was quite a washout. It was, Kristen and I were hoping to go to the pumpkin / Halloweeny festival there at Knoebels, if you're familiar. And boy, the Saturday was just a complete washout. It was pretty dreadful. The weather forecast said that it was going to get, it was supposed to get nicer and nicer despite a bad start to the day. It was cloudy, cool, foggy, rainy, misty. It was, London, Seattle-y, as it were. And it was supposed to just get nicer and nicer as the day went on, and it never happened. It just never happened. And then Sunday came, and so we were thinking, well, let's hope that Sunday is better, that we can still have some trick-or-treaters and so on. And it was to start, and then we went to the Halloween parade in the city of Bethlehem on the north side down Main Street. And then while we were standing watching it, it clouded over and just began to pour. It just started raining. And it was a very, very nice day, actually. And it just went to hell all at once, which maybe is, appropriate for Halloween. And then we did make it home. We were feeling very, what's the right word? Thinking that we were excited that it was trick or treat, and that trick or treat was going to be back to a full, the trick or treat that we're used to. Let's put it, maybe that's the best way to put it. The trick or treat that we're used to after a year. We were very excited. Our first trick or treat here together, her and I, and it just, and thank goodness the weather cleared, and it did get nice and it did get good. And we had, let's just say we still have a lot of leftover candy. Despite our best efforts, We stay in our stomach's best efforts. We still have a lot of leftover candy. We definitely overbought, expecting a crowd that simply did not come. But that said, we're working on it. We continue to work on the candy rather diligently because waste not, want not. But we did have about a dozen-ish, I want to say, dozen, 15-ish young folks or so come by, say hello, knock on the door, gave them as much candy as their parents would allow. And it was nice. It was nice. And it felt like an opportunity for community to come back together a bit. And this, my saying that is really not it's not a judgment in any way. Look, it's been a rough year and almost 3/4 now with this virus. And it's so the opportunity to have something as simple as trick or treat, as complex and big and enormous an event as Music Fest or Oktoberfest, Celtic Fest in Bethlehem. The Christmas market is being constructed as we speak in its original form, the big, huge tents, the igloos, the whole deal. It does make you feel like there is some light at the end of the tunnel. And I know we've been talking about that for quite a long time, as far as the, virus numbers going down, the vaccination rates going up. I myself will be getting my booster, whatever you would like to call it, whichever term works best for you. We'll be getting my booster in early December. I am looking forward to it, because the more of us that do this, the more quote unquote normal life will become. Life will return to. It's not even almost, when you say become, almost kind of makes it sound like a first. It's not a first, it's about returning. And and I don't want to get drowned in the minutia of, well, we don't want to return to the way life was before that because it wasn't so great. Well, I agree. We have the opportunity to make serious policy changes as we return to this, as we return more and more to this sense of normalcy. And we don't want the old normal to be the continuation of the new normal. But I'm just kind of focusing more on, within the realm of this minor discussion, about just being able to get outside, go Christmas shopping, go dinner with friends, hit an adult, have a pint or two with your mates watching football, real football, by the way. Although I would say what happened yesterday was not real football from that bunch, but we could get into that later. It's just, we need to do these things. And we cannot quite frankly, I don't think anyone on this side is doing such a thing. Although there are no blanket statements in a country of 330 million people, but we can't sit on the sidelines while our fellow residents and citizens, friends and neighbors, and sometimes even family, hurl rocks, figurative and literal, about open up the economy, everybody get back. This is, we're sick of this and all these restrictions. Well, then get vaccinated. It can't be both. It quite literally can't be both. I talk a lot that there's on this program that there are no gray, or that there are very few black and white things, very few yes and no's, ones and zeros. There's a gray area to almost everything. There really isn't a gray area to this. If you want your life, your child's life, your habits, your pleasures, your routine fully restored, then by God, get vaccinated and stop bitching about it. you actually have the power to do something about this. Get vaccinated and stop bitching about how everything isn't the way it used to be. You can make it that way again. So I have my booster coming up, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And I hope that for all of us here at the program, we hope that you and yours, if you had a trick or treat, if you turned the light on and handed candy out, or even if you were just sort of peeking out the window because maybe you couldn't afford the candy to give away, or you were at maybe at your daughter's, granddaughter's, a school event, a trunk or treat, whatever it is that you did, I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you an opportunity to reconnect with your friends, family, neighbors, and reestablish that sense of community that the virus has taken so much away from us as a contributing factor. Let me also say our scheduled guest is Representative Rick Krajewski of the 188th Pennsylvania State House District, and he is not in the room. I don't know if we've had clock issues. I do not know if he's having an issue trying to get into the Zoom, because, not to give too much away, because you folks are probably bored with the technical bits of it. For our program is really quite simple. Generally speaking, it's quite simple. For our guests, it's simply a Zoom call, and then I do all of the fancy technical bits from this humble second bedroom studio here. I have a very large computer in front of me, a laptop in the middle, my iPad to my right, and we handle everything here. So the rep simply is not here yet. I am, of course, beginning to freak a bit that he's not going to come. We've been stood up before. But my sense is this is not intentional. I have a feeling there is an issue somewhere along the way. I simply do not know how to get hold of the rep. I don't have a phone number for him. And he doesn't seem to be too careful about answering his Facebook Messenger. So I'm hoping that he will be here relatively soon. Until then, we do have a couple topics that I would like to speak on, and it might be one of those emergency shows. You may recall, especially loyal listeners and viewers of the program, both live and in the recording, that we've had a couple crises, if you will. Crises being a relative term to the program. We had power outages. We had the computer and the mixing board sort of just get a ghost in the machine and kind of just do some funky things by itself, where we couldn't hear the background noises. We couldn't hear the callers. Some callers couldn't hear me. Some people, the Facebook audience could hear me. The radio audience could. Like, we had a ghost in the machine. And we also had, we've been stood up before. No need to shame who did that, because I hope that they will return at a different time. But we've been stood up before. And I kind of sort of started texting people during the program, like I just did right now, to join and to call in and or hop on a Zoom or whatever. And we pieced together a program. And I suspect that I will have to do that in the next few minutes. France is in the room. Kristen is downstairs. So I have a feeling we're going to be cut and paste and piecemealing the old girl together this week, which would be disappointing, because Rep Rick would be only the second representative to come on the program. And I think we're kind of breaking the ice in that area, with elected representatives realizing that they're not going to get savaged here. We're not going to jump on them. No gotcha questions, no name calling, no jumping up and down on the table, being ridiculous. So that said, there is a couple things that I wanted to mention. And let me begin with the election cycle just completed this past week. As you know, we dedicated quite a number of programs to this 2021 election cycle, because in my estimation, it was actually, wait, let me back up before I get deeper into this. Let me just explain what we are doing here. I realized I jumped straight into Halloween, and I jumped straight into the program, and I didn't even give you all the business end, did I? Not that the business end of the program is terribly exciting, but I really should be doing that. You are listening to Watching to the Kennedy Effect. We are live with you, live right now. It is 5:16. If by some stretch of the imagination you don't know the correct time, because we did get an hour back last night, we are back to Eastern Standard Time. It is 5:17 Eastern Standard Time here in Pennsylvania on the East Coast of the United States. So wherever you might be around the globe, that is what time it is here. There's obviously different times for our listeners in Australia and New Zealand, and dotted across the Western European continent, throughout Africa and South America, and across the United States. But if you are in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, 5:17, wherever you might be on Facebook, we appreciate you. We are so very, very glad that you are there. We love it. Thank you. Thank you. We have shared the program to 95 places across the Facebook, or shall we say now Meta universe. Perhaps we can get into that, the new parent company, or at least the name of the parent company. 95 places across the Facebook universe. So wherever you might be at this very moment, if you are watching us live, in any of the 90 plus groups that we have shared the program, please feel free to stay right where you are and continue to watch and listen. However, and this would be a really good time, folks, because our guest hasn't shown up, please come on over to our home group Facebook page called That Other Side of Information. That Other Side of Information. You will see our video in our timeline. Tap on it, it will expand into your screen, and then the comments will be there on the bottom. You can make your comments, you can ask questions, anything that you wish, you can do right there. I will read you better believe I will read your questions right now, because I am guestless. I'm going to be asking Franz to unmute here at some point. I'm hoping Kristen will be seeing this and coming upstairs and bailing me out here a little bit. But if you have questions, comments, you want to yell at me, agree with me, disagree with me, anything that you wish, you can do so right now in our chat. Home group Facebook page, our home page, That Other Side of Information. You'll find the show there. Expand it out, you'll see the comments. Join us, say something, let's have a conversation. Let it not just be a solitary I was going to say allegory. That's not the right word. A soliloquy by me, just a monologue. That's not what we're here for. Be part of the program. That said, and let me say hello, welcome, Sarah. I'm saying hello to Sarah right now, actually. It would be even better if I spelled it correctly. Then it would actually pop up. I continue to do it incorrectly because I'm trying to do it quickly. To our friends, family, neighbors, the community that is hot101.net. Thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your Sunday evening, or, in those other parts of the globe, maybe your Monday morning. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your day at hot101.net. If you do not know how to listen to hot101.net, it is very, very simple. The name is the website. It's hot101.net. If you have an Apple device, you can get the hot101.net app at the Apple App Store. If you have an Android device, you can get the hot101.net app at the Google Play Store. If you have any other type of device, you can use the TuneIn Radio app, which seems to work on every device. Go to the search bar and search for hot101.net. You can also now tell, and that will work on your desktops, your laptops, your tablets, your phones. You can Bluetooth into the car, wherever it might be. We are just glad that you are welcoming us onto your devices and into your homes yet again on this Sunday. And you can now also tell in what has become my new favorite game to speak loudly enough into the microphone to tell Alexa to play hot101.net. You can just say, hey, Alexa, play hot101.net. And that works now. So I'm always hope that somebody's going to tell me, hey, you triggered my Alexa. It's my new game show. It's very it's a self-entertaining kind of thing. It's me kind of trying to, keep myself entertained. So I'm trying to trigger Alexa devices all around the globe. And of course, TCP, the Culture Professional out of Lancaster, their Facebook, Roku, and internet radio outlets. Let me get into the election and I will, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually, since he's not here I guess I'm going to say, not here. Let me put the phone number up on the screen, and you cool kids will be able to call into the program and speak to me. Now, if the rep shows up, I may have to take the phone number down. This is terribly exciting radio listening to me type. The old saying about how we can't walk and chew gum at the same time. I can, but apparently I can't type and talk very well at the same time. So boy, listen to the boringness of me doing all these technical things. The phone number will be on your screen shortly. You can call the program at 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. I have received word from the rep that he has had a conflict and will not be here. That is profoundly disappointing. However, I say this all the time. And in fact, I want to tell you a little bit about a discussion that happened in the chat as we were preparing the program and just getting underway today. The rep is a human, just like everything else, just like all of us. He's human. Had a scheduling conflict. I don't know if there's a communication problem inside, the scheduling with his office or local office or what it is, but there's been a conflict, so he's not going to be here. But we're all just we're all human, so no biggie. We'll get it fixed, and we'll have the rep back at a different time. So it might be quite a short program. We did have a very interesting chat happen, though, because I've told you before that if I see your comments, I will share them. And I think I just had the lights flicker. That's interesting. We weren't expecting a storm or anything, so I'm wondering what's going on with that. Boy, this really could be a short one. A gentleman named Chris happened to be alerted somehow to our live video, asked what it's about. I mentioned to him that the full description of our program is always available on our home group Facebook page, that other side of information, which is where he found the video. So that if he just, reduced. I'm going to be talking about slate phonograph records soon. If he just reduced the video, he could look at the announcement and read it. He then fired back at me a question. And I'm not going to say it word for word. The question was at a minimum derogatory. And what kind of nut was I? Just very calmly said, check out the page and the articles that we post. And then I got quite sarcastic and said they're in English. And very, very much to his credit, to Chris's credit, he wrote back again and said, I'm very sorry I was wrong. No problem, Chris. We're all human beings. We are at such a polarized place that to jump to a conclusion seems to be the first reaction rather than to step back, take a breath, and actually examine what it is that we're getting ourselves into. So the reason I bring this out is by no means to embarrass Chris or anything like that, not even a little bit, but to actually thank him, because he came out, fangs exposed, ready to have a go, took the time to step back, check out our page, check out what we're about, and then say, you know what, I got it wrong. Apologies. No worries, Chris. We're just thrilled that you're here. Thanks for being here. We thank every single person for being here. It is important. A show like ours, where we don't have a huge crew of people. We're not broadcasting from an actual radio studio. We're not on terrestrial radio. We do not have advertisers. And I was going to say we don't have a long list of advertisers, which I suppose would be true because we don't have any. We only have 2 money contributing subscribers to my knowledge, unless somebody creeped in there that I missed. And if I did, please correct me. We survive on individuals. So for you, Chris, for being here, for being so kind and patient and doing the research and checking it out and being so honest, we appreciate you. We hope you stay, and we hope you become a regular listener and viewer of the program. 5:27 Eastern Standard Time. Let's talk about the election from this past week. And there's really 2 big, well, for me, there's 3 big stories that came out of it. Now, there are branches off of those trees, but for me, there's 3 main trees, 3 main stories that have come out of the 2021 odd year election cycle. And oh my, it was odd. Well, that said, let me say this. Everyone has spent a tremendous amount of time on the Virginia governor's race. Let me just talk very quickly about one thing that I have not heard anyone mention. And that has to do a little bit with civics. In Virginia, the governor can only serve 1 term and then must leave office. So for all intent, it's almost strange to call it term limited. It's hard to be limited at 1, but they are limited. So they can only serve 1 4-year term. And so Kristen and I have been discussing most of the week about the way the governor-elect, Republican Glenn Youngkin, was traipsing all over the state promising progressive policies. We're going to pay police more. We're going to pay fire people more. We're going to pay EMS more. We're going to pay teachers more. We're going to make the largest investments in education in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia, because we're in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, where I am now. And I think what gets lost in this, because if you follow politics to any extent, I should think you would somehow be taken aback by the irony of Republicans running around and campaigning as advocates for progressive policies. So that in and of itself is ironic, considering that they don't support any of them, but seem to continue to campaign on them. And then there's the irony of this this term limiting, this limit of the Virginia governor to only serve 1 4-year term. Why can Glenn Youngkin run around, traipse around Virginia and promise such things, and promise everything, the sun, moon, and stars, to every single individual voter that he comes across, even if what he promises voters in the interior, western interior, deep red counties is completely opposite of what he promises voters in the DC suburbs, because he only serves 1 term. I think we're missing the depth as to only serving 1 term, how much that affects what happens in Virginia. Glenn Youngkin can promise them everything to everyone and never have to deliver on it. Even if the Virginia governor could serve 2 consecutive terms, at least they could be held to account for their record. Glenn Youngkin can go into can get sworn in as governor and quite literally never do a damn thing. Cut ribbons, kiss babies, make a couple speeches, travel around, go to barbecues and county fairs and just do nothing but glad hand for 4 years. He could never produce a budget, never propose a single piece of policy legislation, never sign a bill into law. He's one term. One way or another, at the end of four years, he won't be governor. I think it makes it very, very easy to be blunt and honest for campaigns, campaigners, candidates on any part of the political spectrum to promise the sun, moon, and stars, because they never really have to deliver on it. Will state legislators in Virginia suffer if Youngkin doesn't deliver? Probably not. The state is so divided. Probably not. The red areas will continue to blindly elect Republicans, even though it does nothing for them and never benefits them. They'll continue to do so. But I do think it makes it very much easier for someone like a Youngkin to run around and say, absolutely, we're going to, oh, by the way, said he was going to cut taxes. So he's going to massively increase spending while cutting taxes. That's pretty frightening. It's also the Republican playbook. It's called the two Santa Claus theory, and I can explain that for you going forward. And I do think we have to keep in mind the contributing factor. I'm searching for my words. The contributing factor that is the fact that the governor serves but one term. And to be fair, this Republican governor-elect can promise Republican voters he's going to, 5 guns for every house. He can promise to re-implement segregation if he wanted to. He could promise them all the deep Republican red meat that they could possibly fill up on. And he doesn't have to deliver that either, because he's only ever going to serve one term. The same way he campaigned in the DC suburbs and said, I'm going to make education a priority. We're going to pay teachers. We want you parents to have a bigger voice in your schools. We want to work collaboratively with you. I don't think he meant a damn word of it. I don't think he meant a single word of it. But does he have to actually deliver on any of it? They use it to get elected, but does he have to actually deliver it? No, because he only serves one term. 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189 is the number. Your comments, questions in the chat would be welcome, because I am going to struggle to get 2 hours out of this program tonight. Our scheduled guest, Representative Rick Krajewski, had a scheduling conflict come up exceptionally late. He was kind enough to message me. Deep apologies, sincere apologies. I'm looking at the message. He literally is quite apologetic, extremely, actually. And so we will be rescheduling. He's already asked me if we could pick a different date. So we will be doing that. We will pick a different date. In fact, I should return his message. That would be nice of me to do. Today is the 7th, 14th, 24th. Oh yeah, I'm rescheduling a guest right on the air, and you're with me. You're right along with me for the ride. It would be the 21st. I don't know where I got 24th from. Be the 21st. I guess I should do that right now. That said, so he is apologetic, and it just had I believe he probably double scheduled. With all the Zoom meetings and stuff, I think it's a lot easier to double schedule Zoom meetings than it is to double schedule in-person meetings. So that said, He will not be with us tonight, so we will take you as long as I can have something else to say. Your questions and comments are absolutely welcome at our home group Facebook page. That other side of information, I will try to let you know from memory how many of our guests were successful in their campaigns. Way back, probably 2 months ago now, might even be 3 months ago now, we had Keanu Smith Brown from Annapolis. He was unsuccessful in his primary bid against a long 20, I think, plus year seated incumbent, which is a shame, but he did accomplish something because he drove a tremendous amount of voter engagement, and that's not a bad thing. Our dear friend of the show, our rock star young runway model, my political little brother, Connor O'Hanlon, was unsuccessful in his bid for tax collector in Doylestown Township, but yet again, he drove massive voter turnout. I'm working from memory, so forgive me. You can look these. I'm sure you can Google these, and I'm sure I could, if I could type and talk at the same time, I'd Google them myself. I believe he lost by less than 200 votes. Taiba Sultana became the first Muslim woman council person in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. No small achievement. No small achievement. While she did not join us on the program, I worked on her campaign. Taiba has been a friend of mine for, oh gosh, probably since about 5 minutes after I moved back to PA. She's one of the very first people I met as I began to get involved in politics here in the Lehigh Valley. I consider her a dear friend. I hope she considers me in the reverse, but I consider her a dear friend, and she became the first woman Muslim elected. Oh, there's a piece of news. And Ryan Shea is another former guest. Ryan Shea is in the chat right now. It looks like the Red Bulls drew with Nashville and they have qualified for the MLS playoffs. Not a small thing, because it wasn't a great football weekend around here, I can tell you that. But at least we did that. So Taiba was elected to the Easton City Council here in Ryan tells me that Kendi Alvarez won as Lewisburg mayor. Kendi didn't join us, but we appreciate that he won. That's a good thing. Marianne Velez was unsuccessful in her bid to get to the Luzerne County Council. Jordan Emily did not succeed in his school board election. But we had a mixed bag for our guests. And when I look at it, what happened here in the Commonwealth in the 2021 election, it's a bit of a mixed bag. We had 4 statewide judicial candidates. One of them was successful, 3 were not. The Northampton County Council split. There were 5 seats up. 3 of the Democrats won, 2 did not. And that brings me to the one that I almost, in a very tempting sort of way, hope gets me sued. I haven't been sued yet on the program, but perhaps it'll come. I want to talk to you about the election that we had right here in my own backyard, Lower Saucon Township, Pennsylvania, the southwest corner of Northampton County. We could throw a rock into Bucks and into Lehigh counties. There were 3 council positions up for election, 2 4-year terms and a 2-year term. Victoria, one of the Democratic candidates, joined us on the program last week. They were stuffing envelopes, actually. So let me tell you what happened. So you have to stick with me for this one now. But let me just tell you what happened. And it's interesting to me how the reporting of this only happened after the election. Very convenient. And I don't think that happened by accident. Toward the end of a campaign in Pennsylvania, the candidates and their campaigns must report their finances every single day. A 24-hour reporting cycle. It means whatever money you brought in on a Monday has to be reported, and then again on Tuesday, and again on Wednesday, and every single day. And that happens in the final month or 2 weeks, is it? It's already logged in. I'm way ahead of you, kid. Just have to turn the camera on. That happens, I think, in the final 2 weeks, the 24-hour reporting.
I think it's like the final,
A little bit.
I think it's like the final 3 at least.
So the Republicans that ran for township council here had to do their daily campaign finance reports. And an interesting thing showed up on the campaign finance report.
And by the way, we're talking not small dollar donations, we're talking big dollar donations.
That have to be reported?
Yeah.
Just the big ones?
Yeah.
So something very interesting happened, because by all understanding of the way this campaign was run, the amount of literature we received at our door, the amount of campaign signs littered throughout the township, this donation was not probably given in one lump sum 3 days before the end of the campaign. So I would be curious to dig through those reports as to the veracity of the reporting of this money.
Although the law requires that you have to report it within 24 hours of receiving it.
Well, the way it was, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
the way we got bombarded with literature here, I can't imagine that one large donation was made 3 days before the end of the campaign. That's just appearances. The circumstantial evidence is damning toward that fact. That said, Republicans reported a $75,000 donation from a political action committee in New York City that was set up by the Texas-based ownership of the landfill here in our township. Why would the landfill be so interested in the outcome of a local township election? Well, the landfill would like to not really have a lot of oversight. It's pesky. After all, it's a tremendously large mound of trash. I'm sure everything that's in there is perfectly clean and biodegradable, but that said, I'm sure there's nothing dangerous in there. There's no chemicals or anything like that. I'm sure there's nothing, burning or smoldering underneath that pile. I'm sure it doesn't stink at all. I'm sure it isn't affecting the local residents at all. I'm sure. But even with all that said, the landfill would not like to really have a lot of oversight. Because often, not exclusively, but often, if the local officials and boards and oversights are quiet, the state will follow. And the landfill can do essentially whatever it wants. Well, the landfill really wants two things. It wants no oversight, because oversight costs money. Keeping up with regulations costs money. They also want their property taxes kept low, lower, different rate, perhaps even than the rest of us pay as homeowners. They are, to be fair, they are the largest contributor to township finances. They are the largest taxpayer because they have the largest piece of property. The other thing they want is the ability to expand. The landfill is nearly full. Now, Democratic majorities in the past, with bipartisan Republican cooperation, had set aside more than a year's worth of operating expenses. In fact, again, working from memory, I believe they had set aside what we would traditionally refer to as a rainy day fund. I believe it was almost 2 full years of township operating expenses. The recent Republican majority erased that and, quote unquote, returned it to the people in the form of lower property taxes. That means the landfill got their property taxes cut too. What does it mean to have $75,000 injected into a local campaign like this? Well, the Democratic candidates, again, to the best of my knowledge, I was not deeply involved with them, spent roughly about $5,000, most of it their own money. So I don't need to tell you that 75 is greater than 5. I would suggest to you that regardless of what state in the union you might be in, that would be something tantamount to about $500,000 injected into a state legislative race, a state rep race. I would say it is tantamount to $1 million being stuck into a state Senate race. I would say it's tantamount to having about 10 million stuck into a statewide race, governor, United States Senate, etc. Do you honestly believe that this landfill expects nothing for this money? Or do you think they might want something from the Republicans they just helped purchase into our township council? The Republicans will now have a 4-to-1 majority. I assure you that the Republicans in control do not. Sorry, no, it will still be 3-2. I stand corrected. I apologize. It will still be 3-2. If I'm correct, it'll be 3-2. But I believe there's an opening coming, which will produce an appointment. And with a majority, you can be assured that Republicans will appoint someone they see fit. Or considering the single individual Republican that is in control, ruling over the township, not governing it, ruling over it, has some type of landed gentry, you can assure that if this opening does come up and an appointment needs to be made, that it will be someone to his liking. Since council has restricted public comment to 3 minutes, I wonder if the speeches for the appointments will be more than 3 minutes. I guess it depends on what side of the aisle you're on and how much approval you receive from the new king of Lower Saucon Township. But that's not even all of it. The Democratic slate here in town began to publicize this massive donation, what I have characterized as a purchase, but that's my opinion. They began to campaign on this to try to inform the voters of Lower Saucon Township. Did you know that this happened? How did the Democratic slate find out about it? Publicly available campaign finance documents. They didn't hack anyone's computer. They didn't pay anybody off at a bank. They didn't hire a private investigator. Cambridge Analytica certainly didn't supply it to them. The publicly available and required by law campaign finance reports informed them of this. So they began to campaign on it. Did you know, Lower Saucon Township, that your Republican slate, 2 of which seeking re-election and the 3rd seeking a first-time election, received this huge amount of money from this particular entity, and we can only assume for this particular purpose or purposes? The new king of the township was so inflamed because he's not a fan of truth, certainly if it doesn't make him look good. He doesn't do too well with truth. Sued the Democratic slate. took them to court to make them stop saying it. Unfortunate for the Democratic slate, one of the candidates is an attorney. So in municipal district court on Friday, the two parties stood in front of a judge. The new Republican lord of Lower Saucon Township, essentially acting like the child at the checkout at the grocery who wants a candy bar. They said this about us. The Democratic response, we said it about you because it's true. Because it's in your own campaign finance reports. We didn't make it up. We didn't pull it out of our asses or our ears or off from another, and it didn't fall to us in a meteor from another planet. It's in your own report. So even though this fact was publicly available, they sued anyway because they just didn't want anyone to know it. If you were with the Republican ticket and nothing was incorrect about this donation, why would you want no one to know about it? If the landfill ownership group did not believe that these folks were available for purchase, why did they try? And if they did not believe that they were going to get something for their $75,000, why did they donate it? Many corporations will donate to both parties in an attempt to cover all their bases and not make political enemies of one side or the other. Landfill company made no donations to the Democratic slate because they didn't want them. Because the Democratic slate was going to actually review the operations of the landfill and actually carefully consider its expansion. Democratic slate, to my knowledge, and I'm happy to be corrected, to my knowledge, never said they would automatically outright never consider and refuse expansion of the landfill. They simply said the applications would be taken with a very, very high level of seriousness and scrutiny. But scrutiny can be expensive. Scrutiny can keep a lid on profits. What a wonderful investment. $75,000 to purchase 3 council positions, which could end up coming back in the profits of millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. And oh, by the way, we got a property tax cut the last time we paid you. Because see, this 75,000 isn't the first 75,000. In the last 3 years, the landfill company and its PAC, Political Action Committee, its PAC has donated $150,000 into local politics here. After their first donation 2 years ago, the Republican majority replaced all the Democrats on the oversight board and granted expansion and provided little to no oversight. Landfill wants to make sure that continues because they would now like to expand again. And oversight can be expensive. Citizens United, the Supreme Court decision, which was the final nail in the coffin to the end of equality in elections in this country, is not just a national issue. It is a local issue. Because we just saw what unregulated, unfettered, unlimited corporate money can do, even in a humble, small little township like Lower Saucon.
And how these aren't new. I mean, I was just looking it up. This landfill's been there since the 1940s.
Oh, absolutely.
And
but I think that's the lost part of it. I've worked with, I've in communication with, I had nothing to do with the Democrats that ran in 21. They didn't want my help, and God bless them. That's fine. They can make they're adults. They can make up their own minds. That said, I have worked with the Democrats in the past who have never said outright, never, whatever they want, we're going to stop it. All the Democrats have ever said in regards to the landfill is really 3 things. We need to set aside money for a time when the landfill isn't the largest tax contributor. We will provide oversight. And if and when they choose to expand, we're going to study it. Never once have I heard any of the Democrats who have held office in this town say, whatever the landfill wants, we will stop it. Never once. All I've ever heard them say is we will provide oversight, which, oh, by the way, is their job as elected public officials. But oversight can damage profits and stock prices. The best investment in the country right
Tax
now,
revenue.
well, for the township,
Yeah, and that's what I think makes this interesting is I think it speaks to a larger issue. I mean, if we're all honest, we're all living in a throwaway society. I mean, you and I talk about it, how many times we take the recycling out. It has to go somewhere. It's just nobody wants it to go in their backyard. And that's the reality. Unless we move to things that are more sustainable, it has to go somewhere.
I think it's important. Yes, that's an ancillary. That's a pretty far out branch tip of this. This is really more about purchasing government.
Well, and that's
I'm
what
not
ends
saying
up
in no
happening.
way, shape, or form are you incorrect. You are
But that
absolutely
need
correct. If we didn't need
is-
a landfill, we wouldn't have to cater to it.
But that's why that ends up happening. Why government
Right.
gets purchased because somebody's town has to take the landfill, and Lower Saucon, is getting a third of their township budget from it. But let's be honest, that's not going to go. That landfill is not going to go into some of the wealthier townships in this area. They wouldn't put up with the noise and the stench. blowing
Quite
into
frankly,
their
to be
backyard.
perfectly honest, Lower Saucon is a wealthy community. The fact that it's here
On that side
goes
where the
back to when
landfill-
it wasn't. Not on that side. No,
but
that's the.
why-
If
yeah.
there is a poor side of the township, and I use that term loosely because there really isn't. I'm overgeneralizing, and I hate when I do that. I wouldn't exactly say there's a destitute section of Lower Saucon.
True.
Let's put it that way. If there is, and my friends in that section of town are not going to. I want to be careful with my characterization. There's no destitute sections of Lower Saucon,
It's not the.
but
rest
there
of
are. No, it's the Rusty section, Steel City. It's the closest to Bethlehem. It's the the most working class section. Let's put it that way.
But that's kind of what I.
It's not where the $2 and $3 and $4 million mansions are.
That's what I ended.
They
up
don't
to
smell
say.
it.
If
Right.
it
They don't have
were-
to. They don't have to deal with the trucking, the noise, the fumes, the smell. They don't have to deal with any
And
of
that's
that.
what I intended to get at.
Right,
Is
okay,
if it were
right.
on the side of the township with the
Forgot what I was
$3
gonna do.
million home, somebody would do something about it, but it's not. It's on the working class side of the town. It's on the middle class side of the town. So it's almost like, oh, well, they can take it on the chin. They can deal with the noise. They can deal with the stench until they get angry enough to vote these people out. Hence, they need to hide it.
If it was all on the up and up, you wouldn't have to hide it. And if it was all on the up and up, you wouldn't be suing to stamp down publicly available information. My goodness. And here's the other thing. And by the way, the amount of votes that separated the Democratic slate and the Republican slate were not that much. This was a close election.
Yeah.
But again, corporations have made the investment. The best investment in the country right now. It's not gold. It's not stocks. It's not Bitcoin. It's politicians. They're the best investment in the country. Even though corporations piled, about $110, $150 million direct that we're aware of, money into the Trump campaign in 2016. What did they get for it? $8 trillion. Because the actual dollar total of dollar effect of the Trump, Republican, Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan tax cuts of 2017 is not just the 1.7 trillion. By the time the full effects of those tax cuts are absorbed over the next 10 years, it's about $8 trillion. That's a hell of an investment. That's a hell of a return on investment. 100 million versus 8 trillion. And you can be rest assured that the landfill made the same bargain. We can throw them 75. They'll do anything we tell them. And what does it mean back for us? Single digit millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions? Quite frankly, I don't know what the profit margin is of landfill. But if it wasn't making money, they wouldn't be so damn desperate to have no regulation of it. And they wouldn't be so damn desperate to expand it. Citizens United has pervaded every level of our government. Every level. It's not just a national problem anymore. These purchases of governmental bodies can come all the way down to the school board level. If these decisions were not profitable, the Koch network wouldn't spend hundreds of millions of dollars on school board elections and little township councils like Lower Saucon. Well, friends, we don't have a council now anymore. We do entitle. We do by our township charter. But for all intent and purposes, we now have a king. And some minions. All for $75,000. And over 3 years, $150,000. That's all it takes to purchase a municipality in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in the United States in 2021. That's it. 6:03 Eastern Standard Time. We got a whole hour back last night, and I enjoyed every damn minute of it. Because I think I may have actually slept last night, which is the first in weeks. But it was fun. I'll take the extra hour. Wherever you might be across the Facebook universe, over 95 shares this week. And if you want to share the program yourself, please feel free to do so. 95 shares wherever you might be watching right now across the Facebook universe. You can stay right there, or you can come to our home group Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. Big shout out to Randall. Our membership is now up to 933, I think it is, 933. We want to break the 1,000 mark by the end of the calendar year 2021. So we thank Randall for accepting the challenge and inviting folks to check out our page, and then they make the decision if they want to become part of it or not. You can do the same thing. If you are already a member of our page, please invite. If you have not visited our page, please do so. You are welcome to check us out. We want to break that 1,000 mark before the end of the calendar year. Our home group Facebook page is That Other Side of Information. It is open 24/7. You can always check us out. See the articles that we post, a lot of environmental articles. Obviously, there's been a lot of election related and political articles this week. Also some science articles, some articles about astronomy specifically, which is a very much a love of mine. In fact, if you go outside right now, I believe it should be dark by now. If you go outside right now, last night, Kristen and I were fortunate enough to check out a beautiful formation. Alignment is the astronomical term, I believe, alignment of, this will look odd for you guys watching, of Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, and a large crescent moon right on the horizon. Really, really beautiful stuff. It makes you, the fun thing about astronomy, I think, is that it is quite mind encompassing when you are outside staring at the stars, looking at the constellations, finding the planets. Or even if you should happen to find the International Space Station, which you can do, by the way, you can watch it pass through the sky. It is very humbling. It is a very mind-consuming type of thing to realize just how small we are. Speaking to one of my neighbors, who I forgot to tag in this post, by the way, who is also enjoys astronomy and loves to look up at the stars and so on and so on and so on. There are as many stars in the Milky Way galaxy as there are grains of sand on all of Earth's beaches. As many as 75% of those stars have planets. There are as many galaxies in the universe as there are grains of sand on Earth. And the Milky Way is only a moderately sized spiral galaxy. There are much, much, much larger galaxies than ours. We are absolutely not the only creatures in the universe, that is for sure. To our family, friends at hot101.net, thank you for being here, and thank you for allowing us to be part of the family yet again on this Sunday evening. If you do not know how to listen to hot101.net, it is very, very simple. That's the website, hot101.net, the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store. And regardless of whatever type phone device you might have or listening device, the TuneIn app works on all of them, I believe. Google Pixels and LGs and so on and so on. TuneIn radio app, you can go to the search bar in the TuneIn radio app and just search for hot101.net and you can listen there. And hot101.net goes 24/7. The music never stops, and there is really, I mean, genuinely nice, genuinely decent, like decency, decent human beings that play music at hot101.net, and they are really properly talented. We ask you to check it out. And of course, TCP, the culture professional from Lancaster. It is 6:07 Eastern Standard Time. The phone line also is open, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 227-9189. And for those of you playing along at home, I just grabbed the wrong mouse. I always do that a couple times per show. From the comments section, Pat says, because when I said welcome, I said welcome Patricia, and she said she's not that formal, so I'm going to say welcome Pat. Pat says in the comments, those darn public reporting regulations, I filed those for candidate in 2020. Honesty is the best policy. Researching the publicly available records for Republicans in 2022 just became an interest of hers. And I think it's important to mention and to reinforce, as it were, I am not just pulling this out of my bum. This $75,000 donation is on public record.
And
It's public record. I'm not making it up. I'm not arbitrarily trying to trash a group of Republicans who deserve it. It's public knowledge. You have to fill these reports out. We know the money came. I look forward to seeing the post-election reports to see how it was spent. Or, I guess, to be fair, if it was spent. But I'm pretty damn sure it was spent. So I look forward to it.
But you know what? I mean, what Pat said kind of warms my heart, because there is so much you can learn from campaign finance reporting, because they are public records. You can look at their donors, you can look at the PACs, you can look at the super PACs with shiny, nice names like American Families First. And then you can go pull their finance reports because they have to file them. And you can kind of get a glimpse into who they actually are. Like there was one last cycle, I pulled the finance report for it that purported to be representing veterans. No one involved with the establishment of the PAC was a veteran. It was actually a staffer in a DC senator's office. It was just a purely political PAC. They didn't spend any money to, work on issue advocacy for veterans. They just donated to candidates.
I think that's a really great point, is that you can, it does tend to, and to speak to Pat's point, it does get to, she made a point, and I'm not even sure she knew she made, but you can go down a rabbit hole doing this research, but because it is, again, I'm beating the tree analogy to death, but there's the trunk of the tree and then so many different branches.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, all those little branches return back to that trunk. And so the landfill, for our local example, the landfill donated to a political action committee based in either Westchester County, New York, or New York City proper, because I have seen conflicting reports. So to be fair, it could be both, could be one or the other. And then the landfill located here in Lower Saucon did not make the donation directly. Their corporate owners in Texas did. So if you don't think that they were going to benefit from this, why would a Texas-based corporation have to use or funnel money through a New York-based political action committee to get it to 3 local candidates in an obscure township in Pennsylvania?
Well, and that also raises some questions about our state's campaign finance laws, which
or lack thereof.
Yeah, which are pretty non-existent. But I do believe there are some limits on in-state corporate actors, and how much they can donate.
So that it's actually easier for out-of-state money than for in-state money. That's what you're saying. Which says everything you need to know.
I think there were some limits on what, like, if you owned a company, how much you could donate to me as a candidate, but out of state, if I remember correctly, I think the rules were slightly different.
Now, I've brought up this analogy to you when we were discussing this last week, and if I'm recalling correctly, you did not exactly think this was the cleanest analogy, but I'm going to use it again anyway. If this had been private industry, although Republican politicians are increasingly becoming a private industry, if this had been private industry, this is at a minimum analogous to money laundering.
Oh, I think in some ways it is. My other question would be, correct me if I'm wrong.
Now, I'm not a law enforcement officer and I'm not a lawyer,
candidates,
but it's very analogous to money laundering.
Well, I think it is analogous in some ways to money laundering. I just think it's also just, let's call it what it is. It's out and out corruption, because correct me if I'm wrong, some of these candidates got the money currently held office.
Correct, 2 of them.
So that's giving a massive amount of money to not just a candidate, but somebody who is an office holder as well. Now, I realize, just to clarify, the money was given to their campaign.
Right.
But at the end of the day,
but who did the campaign spend money on? 3 individuals.
When you're splitting hairs like that, at the end of the day, they give a massive amount of money to a candidate / public office holder, and they funneled it through a separate entity to try to obscure where the money was coming from.
Here's a reality check in the comments section, because I know you're paying attention to the comments section fiercely.
No, I'm
over
not.
there. No, I know you are. I know you are. First off, Ryan Shea says, hello, Kristen.
Hey, Ryan.
And comments something that is actually quite, I think on the surface gives you a chuckle, but let's look deeper into it. I'm using what my kids make for me to fund my campaign for borough council. The things I could do with $75,000.
Yeah.
Good thing we don't have a landfill in town. I wouldn't have a chance in hell.
Well, you never know. I mean,
Mike Loss mentions in the comments that Lori Dumas won. I mentioned that at the top of the program. There were 4 statewide judicial candidates, 3 lost, and I will get into one of the reasons why I think they lost. 1 was successful. Mr. Laws reminds us that Lori was that one. She had an open invitation to the program, didn't take it, and won anyway. So I guess I'm not as important as I think I am.
She was is truly impressive. I mean, she really is. So congrats.
Her campaign T-shirts were so impressive. Kristen stole the one Judge Dumas gave me. She stole it and used it. She now has full custody of both T-shirts. There's another something that happened. I'll speak to the statewide judicial campaigns in a moment, because I do want to speak about it before we end the program. We will probably be lucky to get to you to 7 o'clock. Again, our scheduled guest was unable to be part of the program. We are rescheduling. It is, he sent his, I think he got double booked, sadly. So it happens. We're human. You know, we make mistakes. Sometimes we do. We double book ourselves. And Mike, thank you for being here. And if you want to dial in or hop in, you're welcome to do so to tell us about the campaign. But we appreciate that you're here, Michael, very, very much. I do want to talk about the governor's race in New Jersey because it was not receiving anywhere near the national attention that the Virginia race was getting. And it ended up being a very, very close race. Primarily for two reasons, really. It appears that, and I don't have the patience to dig into this. Kristen's way more skilled at this and a hell of a lot more patient than I to dig into these finance reports. But the Republican nominee, Jack Ciattarelli, probably for the last 2 months, 2 full months of the campaign, you could not turn on a radio. And all kinds of radio, by the way, country, religious, talk, sports talk, classic rock, 80s, hip hop, you name it.
And TV.
And TV. Well, I was getting the TV. But you couldn't turn on a radio without hearing a Jack Ciattarelli ad. And the ads were essentially him just reading a script. Nothing fancy. But I mean, every commercial break. And commercial breaks in radio are generally between 15 and 20 after the hour, at the bottom of the hour, 20 before the hour, and 10 before the hour. So 5 breaks an hour. You couldn't get, you couldn't go a break without Ciattarelli. So he drove turnout in the red counties. And yes, there are red counties in New Jersey. I came from one. It didn't used to be, but it turned red. Funny how it tended to turn red as Fox News began to proliferate, but that's probably a different topic for a different day. So he drove turnout in the red counties, increased turnout and voter participation, even more so than Trump. And I believe, unlike Philadelphia, the conservative Democrats, people who still consider themselves Democrats, but if it were the 50s or 60s, would probably be Eisenhower Republicans, did not come out to vote. I believe that when the post-mortem is done on the New Jersey race, it will be progressives that saved Phil Murphy. I don't know that yet. I don't. I haven't dove deeply into the numbers. My guess is, as we were watching the returns on Tuesday night, and oh, by the way, Steve Kornacki really better start being a little more careful. But that said, I believe you're going to find that red turnout was up, Democratic turnout was down, and at the end of the day, it's progressive Democrats, which are, by the way, the roots of the Democratic Party. We're not the outsiders. We are the Democratic Party. We're the ones that saved Phil Murphy. Why would progressives want to save Phil Murphy? He's a billionaire. Yes, he is. He's a former executive vice president and large chief top executive investment banker at Goldman Sachs. He's an extremely wealthy man. He also pushed to have his own taxes increased. When a Democratic legislature refused to eliminate the Chris Christie tax cuts and restore the tax rates to where they were before Chris Christie became governor on both corporations and high-earning individuals, it was Phil Murphy that ordered the legislature into session until they did it. He's also authorized the construction of a wind farm off of the Jersey coast that will be able to power the entire state. He's introduced universal pre-K. He's expanded feeding kids in school. He's directed more money to inner city schools. He might just be the single most progressive governor in the country. And I believe that at the end of the day, when these numbers are really sifted through, it will be the progressives that end up, as we look back on it, having saved Phil Murphy. In contrast to Virginia, where Democrats were prevented with a Clinton-era retread in Terry McAuliffe, who provided no impetus for Democratic voters of nearly any stripe to come out and vote. Had a very interesting conversation with an activist, a woman of color, a very, very strong advocate, activist, politically active, politically aware person.
I think it also.
I grabbed the wrong mouse. I always grab the wrong mouse. Why do I do that? And so I had a conversation with her. I want to say this really quick before I get to the caller, and I think it's Mike. I want to say this really quick. She mentioned to me total voter turnout in Philadelphia was about 20% of eligible voters. She mentioned to me that the Democratic Party gave them nothing to come out and vote for. I know Michael's going to disagree, and God bless him, he's welcome to do it. That's the beauty of our country. But it was her opinion, as deeply immersed in these urban neighborhoods as she is, from her friends, neighbors, in the circles in which that she works, that the party provided no good, no active, no exciting, no agenda driving reason for them to come out and vote. So 20% of the eligible electorate voted.
I'll just jump in and say what makes New Jersey hard though is they didn't have exit polls because they didn't expect it to be close. So it's
the two parties will have those numbers, and I'm looking forward to seeing what those are about. I really do believe at the end of the day it's going to be progressives that saved him. Anyway, let me get to the caller. I think it's Michael. Welcome to the program, sir.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
How are you, my friend? How are you feeling? How are we doing?
Hey, it's all it's just counting the votes right now. We're up 12,000, so you know it's a great feeling. I mean, considering the fact that we were 85,000 on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But thank mail-in ballots. Thank you for the Democrats that actually came out, and I think it was just a great day. So you know, we're just counting as we go day to day.
Mike, let me get to the really hard question. Let me just get straight to what I think is a fair but a very tough question. Why was your race different than the other three? Why was Judge Dumas successful where the other three failed?
I can't answer in terms of the other three in terms of failing. I could just talk about why we were successful. When you look at Judge Dumas's experience, she's got 19 years. She's worked in civil court. She's worked in criminal court. She worked in family court. As a matter of fact, Judge Dumas has got 19 years experience, and the Republicans had combined 12%. Now, what we did that might have been different from what everybody else did was we really focused on digital. So we focused on pre-roll. We focused on Facebook. We really didn't have that much resources, but those resources we spent well, you know, and we had very small and very tight commercials. And so we've been basically building a very strong social campaign since the very beginning. And I think that's one of the things that took us over the top. You know, everybody else did a great job. Maria did a great job. You know, I mean, David Spurgeon did a good job as a partner. You know, Tamika Lane did a great job. But in the end, I think that we spent our limited resources in a very positive manner, you know, and I think that's one of the things that definitely took us on the top. In addition to that, we had a very small team, but a very good team. Myself as campaign manager, we had Billy Miller, who's also very strong in the Philadelphia area. And we organized things in a very structured manner. And by organizing things and using what I call total quality management, you know, we were able to identify resources and divide up responsibilities so everybody worked together as a team. You know, we call ourselves Team Dumas, so we came through. So I'm happy about that.
Why do you think there was not more? Why couldn't the other three campaigns do what you did?
I can't answer that question. I don't work for the other campaign. You know, I really can't. You know, I know that they worked hard. You know.
Well, then why do you think there wasn't the coordination or the communication or the support?
Well, I think we communicated. All three of the, all four of the teams actually communicated on a regular basis. We work with Judge, the, the Commonwealth Court was kind of divided up, so we really partnered with them because there were two seats that were basically available at that particular time. Maria was doing a great job being led by some strong people. And oh, by the way, we have some really strong people all from the Lehigh Valley. We run 3 campaigns, for a judicial campaign. We've got experience there. Why did the people come out? The red areas killed us out west. The red areas just actually devastated a lot of folks. I mean, when you think about, you look at Southwest Pennsylvania, you look at the numbers there, you look at Westmoreland County, you look at Greene County, you look at some of the counties out there, they actually came out. The average in some of those counties, just to let you know, was like 32%, man. I mean, I'm looking at Bucks County, you came out, and that's typically a red county. We're kind of balanced. They came out at 40%. Delaware County came out at 30%, 35% for Chester County. Westmoreland County came out 34%. When you look at those numbers, and the volumes available at that particular time, those are red counties. They were there, and red counties show up. As Democrats, we need to learn how to show up. Republicans understand that it's about winning. That's what Republicans do. And you know what? Republicans stand up and say, when they say, hey, stand up, then they say jump. They'll say, how high?
Republicans, Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line.
Well, and that kind of that kind of leads into one question that I had for you, Michael, is given everything that's going on with COVID right now, for a lot of campaigns, there was a real debate about knocking doors, where you knock doors, how aggressive you are on the doors. And at least what we saw in 2020 was that Republicans just ran it like it was a normal campaign. Was that something that you guys had to negotiate within your campaign?
Well, I would say COVID affected the campaign in the primary primarily. We weren't able to go out to some of the areas. We weren't able to drive out to some of the areas. Nobody was really having anything, in the first primary. But in the general, everything kind of opened up around the June timeframe. People started seeing one another. We were able to start traveling. I mean, just in the last, I was talking to our driver just today. Just in the last 3 weeks, we drove 6,000 miles, sometimes up and back, to Allegheny County, to Pittsburgh, to some of those areas. I mean, we were just all over the place. But in the very beginning, to your point, during the primary, hey, COVID hurt a lot of people. But we used that advantage because technology worked for us. Technology worked for us. When you look at the fact that Judge Dumas was the last one that actually came and joined. She joined in the January timeframe and basically said, I'm running. Everybody else typically was running like a year, 6 months in advance before that. So COVID really hurt us in the, it was definitely an effect in the first, in the primary, but after that, for the general, we were knocking doors. We were out and doing the same things that the Republicans were doing.
And if those numbers that Michael threw out there, folks, sound low to you, and that we are talking about them in a context of, wow, what great voter turnout, 35% of the eligibles turned out in some of these counties. In an odd year election, because every year is an election year, but some of them end in odd numbers. In an odd year election, that's a lot of turnout. Isn't that right, Mike?
That's exactly right. This is a tremendous turnout. You look at Allegheny County, 32%, 34%. These are very high numbers for a municipal race. This is something that is not, a race that everybody comes to on a regular basis. But hey, these are some high turnout numbers.
Do you have any thoughts about why the turnout was so low in Philadelphia itself?
I would say that if you're going to do anything, Phil, you have to really give the people a reason why. You really need to invest in people to actually show up in Philadelphia. You've got to make sure that they understand why it's really important to come out and vote in Philadelphia. You can't assume anymore, and I think this is a very good lesson for everybody to automatically assume that they're just going to come out. I mean, there were certain wards in Philadelphia that actually were, believe it or not, pretty high, looking at the numbers, 35, 40% in some of the wards. But some of the other wards, believe it or not, only were 5%. I mean, you can't win anything at 5%. You look at the 7th ward. You know, I actually shouldn't identify the 7th ward, but I'm going to say it anyway. 13,000 registered voters, only 763 voted.
Wow.
Wow.
Did you hear that number? Okay. You know, but you look at, you know, like the 9th ward, 43%. You know, 10th ward, 30%. 11th ward, 15.25%. Right? You look at some of these numbers, and then you have to say, okay, why aren't these people coming out? People need a reason to come out. That's why. And they weren't given a significant enough reason. Look at the 19th ward, 7.47%. 9,253 registered voters, only 691 voted.
Wow.
691, right? You look at Ward 20, 7,014 registered voters, 820 showed up. That's it, 11% turnout. But some of the other wards that we were focusing on, 35%, 40%.
Wow.
You know, So when you look at these numbers, you know, and I'm always a numbers guy, you know, these are the reasons why. And I think when we look at this post-mortem, we have to find out exactly in these wards, why didn't they come out? And you know what? Generally, it's the same thing. The Democratic Party, well, we did not get a good enough reason for them to come out. And I'm speaking as the Democratic Party.
Michael, this is a very conceptual question. And therefore that might make it difficult. It's a concept question.
Okay.
You know, approximately 2,000 years ago, when I ran for the school board in New Jersey, our school board elections were in April. And the state,
what part of
Phillipsburg, Warren County.
Oh, okay.
The eastern end of the Lehigh Valley, even though that little river's there. But they used to be in April, and eventually the state changed them to November.
Okay.
Specifically for the sake of turnout.
Okay.
Is it time to end odd year elections and have everything be on an even numbered year, be it a congressional cycle or a presidential cycle?
I want to say so. I think we have to get people. Really have to get people used to voting every 6 months, and actually just allow people to understand you got to vote every 6 months. If you break it down where they vote every two years, I think people will actually fall off. You know, I really do. So conceptually, I can understand where you come from. But at the same time, if you look at school board races that are taking place, at least when you look at the Lehigh Valley, look around some of the areas, you know what was killing us? We had a whole lot of extra people showing up because of CRT. And it's not trained, but they've created a boogeyman, you know, in CRT. And so that affected a whole lot of areas, especially in the red areas coming out for school board. It was insane.
Right. Yeah, you're not. Not only are you not incorrect, you're spot on. Which leads me to a question. Actually, did you find, as you were traveling, as you were doing events, as you were meeting voters, that issues that have nothing to do with what Judge Dumas was running for crept into this campaign? I mean, we saw here in local school board. I mean, I don't have to tell you, you live, you know, you're one municipality over in Bethlehem. I don't have to instruct you on this. I mean, you live here too, but we saw issues like, you mentioned CRT, but we also saw issues quite literally like book banning and immigration and vaccines and overall health policy. And you know, the funding of schools should be part of a school board campaign, but you understand what I'm saying. Do you find issues that have nothing to do with what Judge Dumas was running for become part of what you almost had to, dare I say, I hope I'm choosing the right words, waste your time on?
Yeah, what would typically happen is someone would actually ask, what's your position on this? And as you know, judges can't really talk about issues. And so it's really easy for us to say, you know, as a judicial campaign, we really can't talk about issue. We've got to be neutral on everything. So we really can't talk to that. But as I was talking to voters, some people were bringing those things up. And I was like, you know, it's important to understand what judges do. especially what it is the Commonwealth Court does, and it's extremely important for you to understand. It may have to do with elections, it may have to do with, labor, it has to do with this, but it doesn't have to do with CRT and some of the other areas too. And people always ask these questions about that, Jeff. They always ask questions about, what about this, what about that? And we typically say, sorry, as judges, we really can't talk about that because we have to be neutral on anything. So that's the way we typically handle it. But do we hit crazy questions? Absolutely, on a regular basis. It's easy to knock them down as a judge.
Well, then let me see if I can branch into a bigger conceptual question, especially that you are fresh off this years long effort. Why the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is one of only 8 states that elects its judiciary? Why? Right. Why do we elect our judiciary? Why do we not operate under the federal model?
That's a question that I can't answer. That's above my pay grade. I mean, it's just the way it is,
Should it be that way?
Huh?
You're a citizen of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Should it be that way?
Well, I like it that way. I mean, I also grew up in New Jersey where, you didn't have elections for judge,
Right.
And
No, appointed by the governor and signed off by legislature. Right. Advice and consent.
I've seen it 2 ways, and I've been in politics in New Jersey, been in politics, in Pennsylvania. I prefer it where you actually have to go through an election so you can really understand who these people are, what they stand for,
How can a judicial race be nonpartisan but still have the candidates run under a party flag?
Well, when it all comes down to brass tacks and they're making decisions, they focus on the law. That's essentially what they do. Judge Dumas shared a story with me, with us, like 3 weeks ago, and she said she was going to a dinner. It was a lunch, and she said, "Okay, where am I sitting?" And they said, they said, "Are you a Republican or a Democrat?" She said, "Well, what difference does that make?" And then the lady says, "Well, Democrats are over there, Republicans are over there." And then she said, "You mean we can't sit with them, with Republicans? That makes no sense. When they get on the bench, they don't think about politics. When they get on the bench, they only think about law." That's the one good thing about the judiciary, the way it's supposed to work. And that's the way Judge Dumas has been. She will actually make decisions based on the law, not based on politics. And conceptually, that's the way it's supposed to be done.
Right. And my questions are not necessarily from a point of view of disagreeing with you, but for the fact of having and stimulating the conversation. I find it one of the great ironies of judicial races in this Commonwealth that judicial candidates have restrictions on them as far as how they can campaign, who they can campaign with, even the types of money they can take. But yet at the same time, you're running under a party flag. So you're absolutely right. If regardless of what Republican is elected, at the end of the day, it's the laws and the statutes in front of you that you're judging on. But clearly it's like we're trying to make a definitional difference. And then at the same time, we're not really trying to do that, but we are, but kind of not, but yeah, we are. I mean,
well, if you want to, well, Jeff, it's really funny. You want to talk about judicial canons. You look at what took place, unfortunately, with Maria's race and how they basically did a commercial that was Willie Horton-esque.
It really wasn't even esque, Mike. I was pretty much a carbon. They cut and pasted images. You could have used the same script. It was a Willie Horton ad. It was a proper Willie Horton ad. It was a Lee Atwater, Karl Rove, Gingrich style Willie Horton ad.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. And so there are certain people that will follow, and there's certain people that actually will follow the rules, just like Judge Dumas, just like Maria, the way she responded. But then again, you've got people, that would come out and do a Willie Horton ad and then get slapped on their hand, right? Slap on their hand, a little slap on their hand, and said, "You got to correct something along those lines to let that take place." That was terrible. It was atrocious. I can't believe that took place. But at the same time, we know who did that. That they were going to get away with it, and they just felt they could do it. That's not right.
Well, then let me ask you, as a campaign professional, where does Judge McLaughlin's campaign and the other campaigns, where does their responsibility lie for not pushing back properly or as forcefully, rapidly, fill in the Lee adverb here. Where does the campaign bear responsibility for that?
Oh, they responded. They responded very quickly. I think it was fantastic what they did, how they basically said that this is not right. They responded. But at the same time, you understand, it's always the person who draws the first blood oftentimes. And then when you're caught explaining, it's a very difficult thing once you've been exposed to something along those lines.
Yeah.
And when the Willie Ford of that magnitude, and when that hit, it is just unfortunate,
Yeah. What was the?
I think it could have been another independent person or another independent PAC that had come out and done a counterattack to a certain extent, but that didn't happen.
Mhm.
Can't be coordinated.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, I think it also adds another layer of complexity, because when a female candidate pushes back forcefully, there's a reaction from society that's a little different than if it were a male candidate doing it.
Yeah.
As unfair as that is, and it's also one of those things, like, what was the famous quote in reaction to the Willie Horton ad? I can't remember who said it, but they were commenting on why it worked, because it is such a loaded attack that there's really no good rebuttal for it. It's like walking up and asking someone the question, when did you stop beating your wife?
You took the words right out of my mouth. It's the old law school conundrum, loaded when you're teaching the skills of asking the question with the answer buried into it. So exactly when did you stop beating your wife?
Yeah.
And it is that type of ad. What is next for you, Mike? What do you do now other than get some sleep? What's next?
I don't know. Right now, we got to get some sleep. We know that the Republicans are going to be challenging us for the ballots. So now it's part 2 of the war. Mm-hmm. They're going to do anything they can do to try to take votes away, challenging provisionals. After that, I'll have to make a decision about what I want to do. I've got a few things, in the pipeline. So we'll see what's going to happen.
Well, you are extremely kind for ringing in. I'm sure you're exhausted, especially on a Sunday night, which is traditionally family time.
Yeah.
But, congratulations to you. Congratulations to the judge. I'm sure you remember when you came to Saucon, we were, thrilled to meet her. Again, Kristen is happy to take any remaining t-shirts that exist because she already stole mine. And you completely usurped my t-shirt. They're both now yours.
Great t-shirts.
They're good too. Yeah, absolutely. But it was an honor to meet her too. It was one of the most pleasant,
it really was,
lower Saucon, or I should say Saucon Democrats meetings that we've been to. Sometimes they can get a little, you've been to so many committee meetings in your life, Mike, you know how it goes. It can get a little dry, shall we say. It can get a little, it can drag a little bit, but to be able to sit with Judge after it was over, after the formal, agenda was over, and just talk, it was really just fantastic. And I hope, I know that the rules change a little bit once you're elected, so I don't think won't be hanging out the same way, but I certainly would be a wonderful thing to see her again. And I look forward to seeing you soon too, as well, when all these meetings get back into in person. Some are, half and half around here, but I look forward to seeing you again in person as well.
Okay.
Thank you
Jeff.
Thank you for ringing in. You know where we are, sir. Thank you very, very much.
And I believe your partner, I worked on Michelle Siegel. Did you work with Michelle Siegel?
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, on the police reform committee, and did something with the senator at the time.
Yeah, with Senator Haywood. Senator Haywood was so kind to jump in the car and travel all the way from Philadelphia to Central PA. Someone had brought to his attention that there were a lot of groups who were springing up in Central Pennsylvania calling for police reform, and he came out to Central PA more than once. And we were really, that was an amazing thing to be a part of in a small little way.
Yep, I remember that. Okay, well, thank you so much.
No, thank you, Mike, for being a part of the program and for listening and being a supporter. We're grateful to you. Thank you so much, sir.
Take care. All right,
Take care.
All right. Bye.
That opens up the phone line to 267, he said. 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189. We will be here probably just till 7 tonight, a bit of an abbreviated program. Our scheduled guest was unable to be here last minute. I have a good feeling he got double booked. And hey, that's okay. We're all humans. It happens. It is nothing more than a little bit of human error, but it's okay. We'll be okay. The rep already messaged me during the program, deeply apologetic, and has already asked for a date to reschedule. So he will be with us in the future.
Can we debate an important, vitally important issue?
Christmas decorations?
Yes. Let's
Okay.
take an online poll. Do you have to wait for Black Friday, or can you put the decorations up now?
Oh, that's hilarious. We spent last night shopping for Christmas decorations. We were quite successful. We did quite well. We got a tree, a pre-lit tree, garland, light up garland, if I'm
Light up garland
remembering
and,
correctly.
Well, 2 light up garlands and
Right,
one that
2
is
light
not.
ups and 1 that's not. And Christmas ornaments.
Mhm.
Now, something that is going to be tiny bit, there's going to be a little bit of controversy. We bought, especially to your traditionalists out there, we bought, hope you're sitting down, plastic ornaments, not glass.
Somewhere Kitty Bloom
Plastic.
is just so
Now,
upset.
why did we do such a thing? Well, if I could do this seamlessly, I would tell you, I would show you, but I need to learn how to share screen without walking people through all of my files. I would show you a picture of the 2 knuckleheads downstairs. And actually, I should mention, by the way, Sis has made, I can't say she's made a recovery. She's diabetic, so she's not going to recover. And she is at a minimum 18 years old, at max 20. Because every time I try to put the timeline together of when we took her in off the street and how long I lived certain places and so on, is how I try to figure that out. But she's doing really well. So, and then we have another cat who was probably a dog in a different life and is not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed. And I don't think I've ever had a proper Christmas tree since he's been a part of the family. So I'm not 100% sure of what he's going to do. So we got plastic ornaments. We got an artificial pre-lit tree so that we're not cutting down a tree every year. And we also got plastic ornaments because in case somebody decides to start playing with the shiny, fancy ornaments, the worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to get batted around the floor, maybe scratched a tiny bit, but at least they're not going to break. So that's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. So if you do have an opinion,
Oh my gosh.
worst thing that's going to happen. Rookie mistake. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with our ornaments, whether they become cat toys or whether they get left alone, because there's just as much a chance that they don't really care. I think they're going to check the tree out, but I don't think it's going to be, I don't think Sis is really going to have much to do with it, but Guy could, yeah, I mean, that could become toys. But if anybody does want to either ring in or enter into the chat for our very impromptu poll, because Kristen had to restrain herself this morning, and I think that's putting it politely, from putting the decorations up, because since they've been purchased, And it is November.
It's almost
Well, what the hell?
mid-November.
Oh gosh. No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's practically, yeah. Would it count if we decided to have Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow?
Mhm.
Would that just make it? I would give you every if we had turkey tomorrow night for dinner, we'd give you every excuse to decorate.
It's Christmas.
Right. Well, because if you have to wait for after Thanksgiving, then just have Thanksgiving early. Marianne says, "Do it, Kristen."
I'm doing it.
I'm gonna come home tomorrow, and there's gonna be the garland's gonna be up. There's gonna be an open box and little plastic pine needles everywhere, and like I couldn't get this done. You have to help finish. I'm really tired. Yeah, but we started now. Don't you just want to finish? It's gonna be one of those things.
No.
We didn't get a star. Pat says decorate.
Domain.
Pat says decorate top of tree. Lower branches are fair game for the kiddies. Whatever
Good
date is
idea.
right for you.
See, I feel like
That's kind of like
really light.
asking for. So I think what Pat's trying to say is you're asking for trouble. If you're putting ornaments on the bottom branches, then you're asking for it. Kind of, I guess. Like that's a way of looking at it. But I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. I'm going to come home. I'm going to be dragging, or back spasms, or whatever the heck is usually going on with me. By the time I get home, and go, oh, we're so close to finishing. If you could just, I got started, but
I wouldn't make you decorate.
oh, you totally would.
No, I wouldn't.
I want a house. Kristen wants a house that you can see from space.
Yes, I do.
Or that Geico commercial where every time they pan back to the guy, there's more and more and more lights in the house. That's what. And we're in a condo complex. We want to keep the complex awake. We want to blow the transformer. Is basically what we're trying to do.
We want to be the Griswolds.
We want to blow the transformer. You went right.
The Griswolds of Society Hill.
We want to blow the transformer, even with as many solar lights as we might actually put up. We want to still blow. We want to tax the sun. We want the sun to fade because we're absorbing so much of its sunlight. Just the way all the Republicans tell you that all the sun, what happens when the sun doesn't come out? You can't all do. Who was the one U.S. rep that said if we do all, it literally said in a congressional hearing that if we all had solar, we would max out the sun and drain it.
Oh yeah.
Oh dear God in heaven! Somebody actually said that.
I can't remember who it was now.
Somebody literally said in a congressional hearing, we can't all have solar because we'll drain the sun. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's why it's not a functioning political party anymore.
We are looking for solar Christmas lights, though.
Outdoors.
Yeah.
Outdoor
outside.
Christmas lights, right? To put on the bushes. Correct. We are. Let me see. If you will.
But I feel like this is a pretty overwhelming, and I think people agree with me.
Ryan says sounds like a Rand Paul thing to me. I wouldn't doubt it. I don't think it was. But somebody literally did say that in a congressional hearing that we can't all have solar because we will drain the sun. I want to also talk about something very quickly before we go. One of the many hats that I wear is for our Revolution, Pennsylvania. And we have taken on one solitary new project. And it is something that we will be working on right up until the primary election day here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And that is electing people to every level of the Democratic Party. If you live inside Pennsylvania, and oh, by the way, I would say anywhere in this country, and if you are not happy with how the Democratic Party functions, if you don't feel heard in it, listened to in it, if you don't feel that the party represents you, if you are not excited about the candidates that the party is putting forward, then I implore you, contact me, contact us if you are in Pennsylvania. And if you are not, find your local Democratic committee and ask to be part of it. there is a better chance than not, wherever you might be in the United States, that your local neighborhood does not have a precinct committee person. That could be you. And precinct committee people, as much as anyone, if not more, determine who the local Democratic Party candidates will be. They help determine what policies are put forward. You can be part of the party. And I implore you, I beg of you, wherever you are in the entirety of the United States, but especially here in Pennsylvania, that's where we happen to live, you can be part of the Democratic Party. And when you become part of the party, you become part of its decision-making process. Policies, initiatives, activism, candidates, endorsements, or lack of endorsements. Get out the vote. All of it. If you're unhappy with your party, get inside and fix it.
And even if you think there's no way I'm joining the party, if you want to be an activist, if you want to be an organizer, the reality is you have to understand how the parties function. You have to understand the dynamics within those parties and the forces that are in play. If you're in Pennsylvania, you're interested or you're on the fence, on Saturday, on the 13th, we're going to be having a call.
Yes.
This lovely guy over here is going to anchor it. And
which will be unique because I'm not really good at this. I don't like to talk much, and I've never hosted anything before. So this will be real exciting.
And you'll have as your special guest Katie Lauer. If you don't know who Katie Lauer is, she is a organizer, progressive organizer of a organization in West Virginia called West Virginia We Can't Wait. They were very active in a governor's race in West Virginia. They were also very active in the teachers' strike in West Virginia a couple years ago in, I believe that was 2019, I believe. The very highly publicized teachers' strike where the teachers and the support staff went out at the same time.
Occupied the State House.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll be sharing information on this event. Pat just asked for to share the information for the event. Pat, I will share that on the Facebook group page as the week proceeds and closer to the event itself. We will, I believe, in all likelihood, be doing it as a registration event, or are we just throwing it open? I think it's a registration. You have to register for the Zoom contact.
The registration link actually, and I can get that to you.
If you have it close that you can post in the page quick, that Pat would
see
take
if I can
it.
do that.
Yeah, the phone line remains open even as we approach the top of the hour here. It's 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. Here is the frightening thing, though, is that, and if frightening is the right word, when we talk about odd year elections and primary elections, you know, Mike Laws is right that we should be conditioned inside Pennsylvania and in all likelihood in your state as well, that we vote twice a year. And we're already into the 2022 cycle. If you haven't been paying attention, then we are already in the 2022 cycle.
Hi, I love you.
We're already in that cycle. There have been announced candidates. I think there's already 7 Democratic announced candidates for the United States Senate. There is 1 for governor. There are 4, I think, announced candidates on the Republican side for governor. And I am not certain of how many for the Senate as of yet. There are congressional races already underway. It looks like the Republican candidate that ran for the United States House of Representatives from the congressional district that I happen to live in, the Pennsylvania 7th, is running again. So, and I can only, our incumbent Democratic representative will be running against her. So these things are already underway. We're not days, we're not even a full week away from last election day, this past Tuesday, the 2nd, and we are deep into the 2022 cycle already. It is the part of politics that has become a business that is the most, I would say, unseemly to me, is that these longer and longer and longer races seem to just generate profits for a certain sector. And I have to say, I'm no fan of that. As much as we talk about, as long as we talk about campaign finance reform in this country, I think we actually need campaign reform. Entire campaign reform. I think we need to do it closer to the way they do it in the UK, where elections last 6 weeks and there's no spending advertising or anything before that. You have a sprint of a campaign and it's publicly financed and it's over. Anyway, Randall is on the line. Randall, welcome to the program.
Hey, Jeff. Hello, Christine. Good to see you both. Can you hear me good?
Absolutely, sir. What do you want to contribute this week?
I totally agree with your last comments you made about UK, that, elections are only 6 weeks. I also like to mention one thing I like about France, and that is no political ads can go on 48 hours prior to the election. So somebody can't come up with some BS on a candidate and then have no time for opposition to reply to that BS.
And let's think about it this way, Randall. You make a really interesting point without actually saying it. Why would you have to raise $1 billion to run a campaign, with the primary expense of that being radio and television, if you can only run radio and television for 48 hours ahead of time? You don't need $1 billion anymore then, do you? And it begins to level the playing field. Most people will probably not even recall the last fully publicly financed campaign in this country for president of the United States was Jimmy Carter, and he won. He ran his campaign entirely on small dollar private donations that were matched with public funds. That was it, and he won.
And he won the primary, like here in Delaware County, when I was living in Aston Township.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first year I was elected Democratic committee here in Delaware County. Jimmy.
Damn, Randall, they were still using muskets back then, weren't they?
Only my good Democratic friend.
Did you drink at a tavern with Washington and Lafayette?
Well,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You know I'm kidding.
That weekend before the Pennsylvania primary in '76.
I'm teasing.
Jimmy Carter stayed at some of my Democratic friends' house, which is pre-Revolutionary War.
Right, I got you. But I can do that. I know you have a good sense of humor. I can say that to you. But what did you see in this last Tuesday, Randall? The 2nd of November. What did you see in Delaware County? What were the results there? What did you see for turnout? What did you see for? And by the way, Randall can back me up on what happened in New Jersey, because Delaware County gets a lot of TV from New Jersey and gets the Jersey candidates spend money.
All southern New Jersey has no.
Well, they spend money in the Philadelphia.
New Jersey has no commercial television stations. They have a PBS, but that's it.
But they spend their money in Philadelphia and in New York, so you get to see it all.
New York and Philadelphia market.
Right.
Over commercial television.
But we get to see it.
So we see all the commercials for Southern New Jersey.
Right.
For Atlantic City, for Wildwood, for Cape May, et cetera, et cetera. And I saw an awful lot of commercials for the Republican candidate for governor.
Right. Exactly. Every commercial break. I mean, literally every one.
Every break. Yep.
Incredible. I mean, and that's what. So when you say that France only allows advertising like that,
No,
48 hours.
You misunderstood me, or maybe I misstated. France does not allow any political commercials 48 hours prior to an election, so someone can't
gotcha.
slip a ad in, and then the opposition doesn't have time to respond to it.
I actually did misunderstand you, so I'm glad you corrected me. When you have a 6-week long election, though, you don't have to raise the levels of money for it that you do. There's already probably 20 plus Republicans raising money to run for president in 2024. You have a 6-week long election, you don't have to do that.
No. And that could actually help the people against Citizens United, Supreme Court ruling. And as you talked earlier in the program, Citizens United is what has destroyed our democracy, Jeff, in my opinion.
Randall, you are not a constitutional scholar, and neither am I.
Nope.
So I don't say that to you in any derogatory way, and nor do I think you would take it that way.
I'm just a history major.
So let me ask you this, because I have asked I've asked almost, well, let me put it this way. Every person that I have asked this or taken through this line of thought has agreed with me. And I don't say that because I'm smarter than anybody else or anything like that. I just find it interesting that no one can give me a counter argument. And again, I am not a constitutional lawyer. I'm not a constitutional scholar. Neither is Randall, and neither are probably all of you listening. I would love to have one on to discuss this, among other things. But let me ask you this, Randall. Let me see if this train of thought of mine connects with you, or if you agree with it, or if you don't agree with it. So we are all granted free speech under the Constitution. The Supreme Court.
We're all granted free speech as long as we don't make a threat, as long as we're not in a theater and yell fire.
No,
whatever.
Right. Or dare say seditious speech as well, by the way. But that said.
Yes.
So we are granted free speech under the First Amendment of the Constitution. That First Amendment is inherently equally applied. We all have it. So if money equals free speech, but money is not equally distributed, then how can money equal free speech?
I absolutely agree with you, and let's go back here to the two major Supreme Court rulings here in the 21st century. The first one was back in the early part of this century, where the Supreme Court ruled that a corporation is just like a physical human being entity under our political system, which I totally disagree with to this day. Just like Citizens United, Supreme Court majority came afterwards saying that they can spend unlimited money through any PAC they want to set up for any reason. No. We're at in my opinion, we're at a tipping point for democracy in this country because of dark money, because of billionaires and corporations setting up these PACs of dark money to buy politicians, and that includes too many, in my opinion. Well, in one sense, it includes all the Republicans, but on the other side of the coin, it's too many corporate Democrats and billionaire bought-out Democrats voting for their clients, their contributors' interest versus the people's interest.
Right. I'm with you. We saw it here. You saw the article. You were one of the folks who reacted to the article I posted this week about the purchase of the Lower Saucon Township Council. You saw it,
Yep.
and that's exactly what we're talking about.
And I even spent the time to read it.
And what, Randall, what happened in Delaware County on Tuesday? Tell me about the races around your county.
Okay, I'm in the southwestern part of Delaware County, which is probably considered the third ring of suburbia, going out from Philadelphia before you hit the Delaware line. And all these boroughs and townships around here, school board through borough councils through township commissioners, they all went massively for the Republican candidates. And they went massively for our county candidates. But as the mail-in ballots are still being tabulated from election night, where the Republicans look to have swept all the row offices here in Delaware County, swept all the Commonwealth Court judgeship elections here in Delaware County and county council, as the mail-in ballots are being counted, the Democrats at least won all four Commonwealth Court, two Commonwealth Court positions open, all row offices once again, and all two county council seats. And again, up until 2017, the Democratic Party in Delaware County had been locked out of any row office, any Commonwealth Court judgeship, any county council since the Republicans passed home rule in 78, I think it was, and did away with the state mandate that you always have one minority out of three county councils. But we started gaining then in 2017, and we took full control in 2019. And it looks like the eastern part of Delaware County, the first row of suburbia, which is predominantly people of color now, and I mean all kinds of people of color. It looks like those voters met, and they won across the board on their school board elections, borough council, township commissioners, etc.
Mm-hmm.
District magistrates, not district magistrates. Yeah, district magistrates. Yeah. Used to be called judges of peace here in PA. Right. So our attitude here, Brookhaven Democratic Committee, for example, our attitude here is, well, we might have lost everything locally in November 2nd, but we produced enough votes going door to door to take our county candidates over the top, adding on to others' votes. Of course, we got the same thing going on here in Delaware County. The Republicans are screaming, "Oh, it's the mail-in. Oh, you're too lazy to vote." Hey, I voted by mail-in.
They also supported mail-in. They also supported mail-in during the in Act 77, which was a bipartisan piece of legislation, which radically expanded mail-ins. They actually voted for that.
Voted for mail-in. Yes.
Right. They're only against it now because it isn't benefited.
I'm just curious, Randall, what did you see in terms of, we've heard so much talk, particularly in Virginia's gubernatorial race, about CRT and the anger and frustration in school board meetings. Is that what you were seeing in some of those outer rings of suburbia?
I have seen it, and it started when the Republican, it started probably before the Pennsylvania primary started. With my local school board is 100% controlled by the Republicans, and we've got Trumpites on that board. We've got 2 QAnons on that board. After the George Floyd summer in 2020, citizens like myself went to the school board and we demanded we want diversity education. And they reluctantly went along with it. But since then, my local school board, Pendelco, they're 100% against, and they just want to do away with what they voted yes on. Well, at least the majority of them voted yes on, for a diversity committee, and they want to turn the clock back now. So I think you know, I'm not a legal scholar, so I can't even answer the question what critical race theory is, because it's only taught in essentially in master's class, especially law classes.
Which is exactly the point.
But I'd say 99% of the people that hear that term, they don't understand what it's about. I mean, does that mean, oh, you know, we can't teach about slavery anymore? Does that mean we can't teach about the Trail of Tears anymore? Where all the tribes east of the Mississippi were ripped up and died of starvation, etc., on their way to Oklahoma? Can we not talk about, excuse me, can we not talk about Martin Luther King? I Had a Dream, and a big part of that I Had a Dream speech was on economics, not race. It's very frustrating.
Randall, before we let you go, because we're going to wrap up the program, can you remind us, I think I have it right, but in my own brain, but can you remind us, what did Delaware County do in 2020?
We totally took control.
Well, what did you do in the presidential race in 2020?
It went blue.
I'm sorry?
What did Delaware County do for the presidential race in 2020?
We were one of those suburban counties around Philadelphia that took Joe over the top through mail-in ballots to take Trump down.
And that's why
mail-in ballots.
And that is why I asked, because of the in just a year. Look at the difference. I mean, that's pretty frightening.
Yep.
In just a year.
Yep.
So, Randall, I'm going to let you go. We're going to wrap up. Thank you, as always, for being a loyal listener and viewer and being part of the program and sharing your wisdom with us. We appreciate it.
I think I got you at least 2 or 3 to join the other side.
Hey, keep them coming. We want to break 1,000.
Yeah, I put out this past week. I put out on private messenger. I think 200 of my friends,
Wow.
political, college. Most of my college friends are progressive, like I am. So yeah, and I'm gonna continue doing that, Jeff.
Well, we welcome the new members. We want to break 1,000 by the end of the calendar year. That's the goal.
And I'm with you, and I'm trying to help you.
And I don't care if it takes up to 11:59 on New Year's Eve. I just want to break 1,000 by the end of the year. That's the goal.
11:58. You'll be online going, come
Well,
on.
I'll be asleep probably by 9:30 that night, but that's not the point. So anyway, that's all right. Randall, until next week, please take care of yourself. Okay, stay healthy.
Bye, Randall.
You too. Thank you, Christine.
It's Christine's fine. You got an extra syllable. It's all
I
right.
like it.
Got an
I'm
extra
gonna,
vowel. If you want to buy a vowel, you're good. You got an extra one.
I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let you
Yes.
do your thing.
We're gonna finish up. Gonna have a snack before we join our revolution at 8 p.m. It is 7:21 Eastern Standard Time. Daylight savings all over. If for some crazy reason you haven't changed your clocks yet, that is the actual real time. One wonderful thing about these electronic devices that are connected to the magical interwebs is they reset themselves automatically, and that's a lovely thing. I only changed 4 clocks in the house today by hand. The rest were done, and one of them actually is digital, but 2 of them were digital, but they're not connected to anything, so they don't fix themselves automatically. But I changed 4 clocks. So that's a pretty good deal. I want to let you know before we go on Saturday, because there's a couple of big deals happening on Saturday, the 13th, kind of competing events, if you will. The Our Revolution event, which is an online event, a purely online event. And I invite you, wherever you may be in the entirety of the United States. This is an Our Revolution Pennsylvania event, and it is going to be focused on how to become part of the Democratic Party in Pennsylvania. However, if you are anywhere in the United States, you will gain something from this event. I believe that you will learn something, you will gain something, and hopefully you will be motivated to become part of your local Democratic Party structure, or your county's structure, or your state's structure, wherever you may be, anywhere in the entirety of the United States. So I hope that you will be on the lookout for that. The registration link is in the comments section of tonight's program. There is also another event which is much more local. If you are in the Scranton area, on Saturday, the 13th, there is the Coalition for Trans Youth is holding a rally on the steps of, where did you say that was? The steps of what? City Hall of Scranton City Hall, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania. The Coalition for Trans Youth, a rally on Saturday, November 13, 11 a.m. And we're hoping to get representatives from that particular group on our program, potentially Wednesday night for a special edition. I think you're going to be seeing more special editions of the program on Wednesday nights. Next week, our guest is Ty Holmes. Ty is a veteran and a veterans advocate and a veterans activist. And we wanted to have Ty on as close to Veterans Day, or as it's referred to everywhere else, Remembrance Day, as we could. So it was either this week or next week. So Ty will be joining us next week to discuss activism in general, but really more so, I'm sure our conversation will break into quite a number of topics. But veterans activism, how he advocates for other veterans, his experience as a veteran himself, and how other veterans can do what he's doing for other veterans, and also how he works inside, political circles to advocate for veterans and veterans services and veterans care and so on. And I thought that was a very important program to have right around Veterans Day, Remembrance Day. So that is our scheduled program for next week, the 14th. I'm doing math in my head. Today is still the 7th, isn't it? Yeah. Yes, it is. Is it? Yes, I think it is. Still the 7th today, isn't it? So that's the 14th. That is 1 week from tonight. So again, let me just wrap up. If you want to be part of the effort that Our Revolution Pennsylvania is taking on to get as many good, decent human beings elected inside inside the Democratic Party here in Pennsylvania, as many as possible. You can find, just reach out to me on the Facebook page. I will get you, including the call that we're having tonight, starting in just half an hour. Just reach out to me. We'll get you taken care of. We meet every Sunday and Wednesday night completely virtually. So no matter where you are, you can always get to us. I think you're going to be on the lookout for more special episodes of the program coming on Wednesday nights, probably in the 9 p.m. area. We are simply getting more and more interest, and that's a really, really great thing. And we owe that to you. We owe that to every single one of you who listens to this program, talks about this program. It mentions in, the old water cooler type conversations that you should have heard what I heard on the show last night, and it really made me think, or I learned this, or I disagree with that guy completely. He makes me so angry. Hey, it's engagement. You're welcome to disagree with me. You're welcome to get angry at what I have to say. It's about engagement. It's about us having conversations. I want to also add, even though there are none scheduled, I think this is very important. If you have a local, state representative, state senator, congressperson, or U.S. senator would be lovely. I've been trying to reach out to the Free PA group for months, and their leader. Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, corporatists, billionaires, they're all welcome on this program too. They don't come, and that's not by accident, but they are welcome here. I would love to have a series of programs with folks with a different political view than myself. I'd love for them to justify their own views. Explain to people why you feel the way you do. Why do you feel people don't deserve a minimum wage? Not just a $7.25 one, but not one at all. And that has nothing to do with the Second Amendment or vaccines or masks or charter schools or for that matter, religiosity. Why do you think people don't deserve to earn a living? Why do you think we don't deserve medical care? Why do you think that all of the commons should be privatized? Roads, bridges, etc., etc., etc. Tell us why. Join the program and let's have a chat about it. Only when we have those discussions will we begin to heal this nation. The caveat comes where I'm beginning to wonder if there's about 30% of the country that doesn't want to heal this country. And that's where the frightening bits come in. I beg you all to pay attention to what the January 6th Commission is doing. The subpoenas, the investigations, the interviews. This is serious, serious, serious stuff. What happened January 6th is not done. It's still happening. You now have about 30% of the population that believes that now they don't say it this way. They now believe that the interests of the billionaires are worth essentially ending the American experiment. A recent poll shows that there's still, I think it's 83% of Republicans think the election was stolen. 45% of Republicans believe that ignoring the Constitution and taking up arms is the way for them to gain and retain political power. We're that close, folks. Please be informed. And if you're one of those Republicans, you are welcome here. I want to know. And I believe that you as an audience wants to know. Tell us, explain it to us. Tell us why ending democracy is good for the country. Tell us why the 3 richest people in the United States having as much wealth as the bottom 200 million is a good thing. Tell us why access to education, and healthcare and transportation, only if you can afford it, is a good thing. I want to know, and I believe the audience wants to know. Educate us, explain it, make your case. I have invited more Republicans here than I can count. And shocker, none of them have taken me up on it. But that doesn't mean that the invitation is null and void. It's open. You are all welcome here. Let's have a chat. So that is, I know my dear, dear friend and mentor to a great extent, Franz just unmuted, but we are at 7:31 Eastern Standard Time. This is a great time for us to say goodnight to you. So we are going to do that. I'm going to be chatting with Franz in about, well, I'm going to chat with him after the Zoom ends, and then I'm going to chat with him again at 8 o'clock. Again, our scheduled guest for next week is Ty Holmes. Will be discussing all things veterans and veterans activism and supporting veterans and needs of returning vets and so on and so on. Our scheduled guest for tonight, Rep. Rick Krajewski, sends his apologies. It sounds like it was just a very simple double booking, just a little bit of human calendar keeping error. Not a problem. It happens. We're all human. We all goof up a little bit occasionally. It seems like tonight was just a simple, honest mistake. I will take that at face value. He's already asked me when we can reschedule. We're already working on a date, and the rep will join us again well, he will join us for the first time, but I mean, we'll get him scheduled again, and he'll be joining us in the future. So for now, for associate technical producer Lynn Dare, for technical producer George Dare, for DJ Earl and DJ Lex, the DJ Lex at hot101.net, for Marquise Whitney and the entire group at TCP, for the woman responsible for creating this program and giving me the confidence to get back on the air and the outlets to do it. That is April Riddick. April's done with youth American football and youth cheerleading in Allentown, so we're hoping to see her again soon. That really took a lot of her time. Hoping to get together with her soon and hoping to have her here in this studio sharing the microphone with me very, very soon. And of course, for Kristen and for our cats who behaved very, very well tonight. I want to say thank you all for being here, every single one of you. Please remember that the recorded version of this program, the full program, is available everywhere that it is shared and posted. You can watch the entire video on Facebook. You can also go to our YouTube channel, which is also called That Other Side of Information. We are on Instagram, That Other Side of Information. We are on, I'm cheating right now. We are on Twitter, at That Kennedy Talk. We are on TikTok, That Other Side of Information. I actually remembered to do a TikTok promo tonight. Well, this afternoon I did it, but I remembered is the key point. And we are on Patreon, where you can financially subscribe to and support the program. Every dime that we bring in from subscriptions goes back into the program. I make $0 on this program. In fact, we're still in the red for this program, and so is George. So please don't think of it that way. We're not here to make money. It'd be nice if we could eventually do that. I'd be with you 5 days a week, but right now, no. So we will return next week, the 14th of November, with Ty Holmes, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, I am Jeff Kennedy. I already rattled off everybody. Please get vaccinated. Please check on your neighbors. Please be an active, informed, engaged member of your community. And please take care of yourselves and each other. We will see you next week. Take care.